North Korea may be preparing for its sixth nuclear test, according to satellite imagery from a U.S.-based institute. The April 12th announcement came from 38 North, part of Johns Hopkins University's School of International Studies. It says satellite imagery has shown movement and personnel at a test site in the country's northeast. 38 North has described the site as, quote, primed and ready. However, Yonhap News Agency reports a spokesman for the South Korean Joint Chiefs of Staff said there have been no unusual signs to indicate possible provocations. North Korea commemorates the birthday of Kim Jong-un's grandfather, Kim Il-sung, on April 15th. Known as the Day of the Sun, the occasion has been used to display weapons and carry out a missile test in the past. U.S. President Donald Trump has said he is willing to act alone if China is unable to get North Korea to rein in its nuclear program. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Matt Paul.
The main carrier of Zika is the yellow fever mosquito Aedes aegypti, but researchers have now found fragments of Zika RNA during genetic testing of Asian tiger mosquitoes collected in Brazil. This doesn't prove that the Asian tiger mosquito can transmit Zika to people, but it does emphasize the need for further research into other possible carriers of Zika, according to study author Chelsea Smart. She's an associate professor from the Florida Medical Entomology Laboratory at the University of Florida in Vero Beach.
Starting on Monday, marine mammal rescue centers in Orange and Los Angeles counties reported increased instances of sea lions exhibiting signs of domoic acid poisoning caused by a neurological toxin resulting from an ocean algae bloom. According to the Orange County Register, symptoms include lethargy and unawareness. Officials claim that the sea lion's plight could signal that the marine environment remains dangerously out of balance. Starting in 2013, a lack of food sources available to lactating mothers close to Channel Island sea lion breeding grounds led to mass strandings. Keith Matassa is executive director of the Pacific Marine Mammal Center of Laguna Beach. He said the health of the sea lions can help to inform scientists about the overall condition of the marine environment. On Friday, amid rising concern over North Korea's nuclear weapon program, a government official announced that Japan's National Security Council was discussing how to evacuate its nearly 60,000 citizens from South Korea in the event of a crisis. The announcement comes on the same day that North Korea denounced the U.S. for bringing huge nuclear strategic assets to the Korean peninsula as a U.S. aircraft carrier group headed for the region ahead of a feared sixth nuclear missile test. According to the official, Japan would want to deploy military aircraft and ships to assist commercial ships and planes in the event of an evacuation. According to Kyodo News Agency, Japan began working on plans to respond to a potential crisis on the Korean peninsula in February, following Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's meeting with Donald Trump at a summit in the United States. A 3-year-old from Missouri named Audrey has been recognized as quite the character. Little Audrey has been capturing the national spotlight for her unique choice of a birthday party theme, poop. Audrey's mother says, for months, anytime we would talk about her party, she said she wanted poop balloons and poop cake. Audrey's parents tried suggesting a princess theme, but after much consideration, they decided to just go with the odd theme, and Audrey loved it.
A 6th grader in Portland, Maine named Molly Neuner was publicly shamed in front of her classmates earlier this week for allegedly violating the school's dress code. Molly had been called to the front of the class along with another female student to measure her shirt straps. According to Molly, her teacher made her feel really uncomfortable. 2 days later, Molly had showed up to school wearing a similar tank top and the message, "I am not a distraction," written down her arm. More than 20 other 6th grade girls joined her spreading the same message.
On Friday, despite facing a hardline conservative challenge over his economic record, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani registered to run for a second 4-year term. Rouhani told reporters after making the decision, "Once again, I am here for Iran, for Islam, for freedom, and for more stability in this country. I am urging all Iranians to vote for Iran and for Islam." Back in 2013, Rouhani won Iran's presidential election by a landslide on a platform of ending its diplomatic isolation around the world and creating a freer society.
According to a lawyer with the Justice Department, President Trump's executive order withholding funding from sanctuary cities applies to only a small amount of money and not the hundreds of millions local governments claim is at stake. Assistant Attorney General Chad Riedler said in a court hearing filed by the City of San Francisco and Santa Clara that the communities were interpreting Trump's order too broadly. He went on to say that the order would affect less than $1 million in funding in Santa Clara and potentially no money in San Francisco. The cities have argued that over $1 billion was in fact at stake for them.
A Pakistani journalism student was beaten to death after he was accused of sharing blasphemous content online. Graphic video footage shows a mob stripping Mashal Khan naked and beating him with blunt objects like planks and bricks. By the end, his skull had reportedly caved in. The incident happened on April 13th on the campus of Abdul Wali Khan University in Mardin, Pakistan. The university told Dawn newspaper over 20 police officers arrived at the scene, but they couldn't help Khan because the crowd was so large. The university was closed down afterward, and multiple students have been arrested. The university published a statement saying it was investigating allegations that Khan and two other journalism students engaged in, quote, blasphemous activities. Blasphemy is punishable by the death penalty in Pakistan. The two other students have been banned from the university until further notice. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Neela Uni.
On Thursday, Poland welcomed the first U.S. troops in a multinational force. The force is being posted across the Baltic region to counter potential threats from Russia. More than 1,100 soldiers are to be deployed in overseas. 900 are U.S. troops, in addition to 150 British and 120 Romanians. The area is 57 kilometers south of Russia's Baltic Sea enclave of Kaliningrad. Moscow has stationed nuclear-capable missiles in Kaliningrad in addition to an S-400 air missile defense system. 3 other formations are due to become operational by June across the region.
The Navy's investigating a decorated SEAL who moonlights as a porn actor. His wife, porn star Jules Jade, tells the San Diego Union Tribune that she recruited Joseph Schmidt as an unpaid performer to cut the filmmaking costs. Schmidt is a 42-year-old chief special warfare officer in Coronado with 23 years in the military. He has even appeared in recruiting campaigns. The Naval Special Warfare Command is investigating whether Schmidt probably sought permission from his commanders for outside work, whether they condoned it, and whether Schmidt engaged in behavior that discredits the service.
North Korea has once again promised military action in the case of provocation by the United States. North Korean Vice Foreign Minister Hong Song-yeol said North Korea is ready to launch a preemptive strike on the U.S. if it engages in reckless military aggression. He made the comments to the Associated Press on Friday, April 14th. He also blamed President Trump for raising tensions, saying, quote, "Trump is always making provocations with his aggressive words." Trump also sent an aircraft carrier group to the Korean peninsula in response to the North's latest missile test. Rising tensions have countries in the region worried, urging the two to de-escalate. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi said Friday North Korea and the U.S. must stop provocation and threats before the situation gets out of hand. Meanwhile, Japan's National Security Council reportedly discussed evacuating its citizens in South Korea in the event of war. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Matt Paul.
Actually work more closely, especially when a woman has dense breast tissue like she does.
According to the Associated Press, the Trump administration has dropped a lawsuit accusing North Carolina of discriminating against LGBT residents. The move comes in response to the state's decision to undo its bathroom bill. The filing represents the first significant piece of legal action challenging the state's non-discrimination law since a deal last month to replace the law. House Bill 2 required transgender people to use the bathrooms, changing rooms, and showers in state-run buildings corresponding to the sex on their birth certificates rather than their gender identity.
President Donald Trump says that Pyongyang is a problem, one that will be taken care of. There's been speculation that North Korea might be on the verge of a sixth nuclear test. On Thursday, Trump said that he believed Chinese President Xi Jinping would work very hard to help resolve the challenge. I have really gotten to like and respect President Xi. He's a very special man. I think he's going to try very hard.
Two suburban Chicago men who posed for photos holding a black Islamic State flag at a Lake Michigan beach park were arrested Wednesday on federal terrorist charges, reports the AP. An FBI sting begun in 2015 compiled evidence that Joseph D. Jones and Edward Scimente sought to provide material support to ISIS, including by providing cell phones to an FBI operative posing as an ISIS supporter, believing the phones would be used to detonate car bombs in Syria. Jones and Scimente drove the FBI operative to Chicago's O'Hare Airport last week on what they thought would be the first leg of a journey to Syria. The compliance says Scimente told him to drench that land with blood, while he helped the man he believed would go to Syria get into condition at a local gym. The 35-year-old men appeared Wednesday in federal court in Chicago. They face up to 20 years in prison if convicted.
The United States military said that on Thursday, the United States dropped a massive GBU-43 bomb, also known as the mother of all bombs, in eastern Afghanistan on Thursday against a series of caves used by Islamic State militants. Pentagon spokesman Adam Stump said it was the first time this type of bomb had been used in combat and was dropped from a MC-130 aircraft. Military officials said that nearly 36 suspected Islamic State militants were killed in the strike.
The U.S. is prepared to launch a preemptive strike with conventional weapons against North Korea should officials become convinced that North Korea is about to follow through with a nuclear weapons test. North Korea has warned that a big event is near, and U.S. officials say signs point to a nuclear test that could come as early as this weekend. The intelligence officials have said that the U.S. has positioned 2 destroyers capable of shooting Tomahawk cruise missiles in the region, one just 300 miles from the North Korean nuclear test site. On Wednesday, North Korea said it would hit the U.S. first with a nuclear weapon should there be any signs of U.S. strikes. On Thursday, North Korea warned of a merciless retaliatory strike should the U.S. take any action. North Korea is not believed to have a deliverable long-range nuclear weapon, nor does it yet possess an intercontinental missile. South Korea's top diplomat said today that the U.S. would consult with Seoul before taking any serious measures.
United Nations human rights experts are urging authorities to investigate reports about gay men being targeted and detained in the Russian Republic of Chechnya. According to a human rights activist and a leading opposition newspaper in Russia, there have been increasing reports of gay men disappearing in Chechnya since March. Dmitry Peskov, who is Russian President Vladimir Putin's spokesman, told reporters in a conference call that the Kremlin has no legitimate information on any such problem in Chechnya. The country is an almost entirely Muslim republic, which includes part of Russia's border with Georgia.
What do you do with an old fighter jet you've got lying around? You turn it into a drone, of course. The U.S. Air Force recently turned an F-16 fighter into a UAV capable of flying combat missions on its own. The test, done as a cooperation between the Air Force Research Laboratory and Lockheed Martin, saw the F-16 able to execute a ground strike mission by itself, as well as to be paired with manned aircraft and successfully take on delegated tasks. While the Air Force had already been using F-16 drones as practice targets for the F-35 to destroy in training, this marks the first time it's been fully converted into an autonomous vehicle with air-to-air and ground strike capabilities. The program is part of the Pentagon's third offset strategy, which plans to use existing equipment in new ways to maintain an edge over countries such as Russia and China. For Newsbeat Social from Washington, D.C., I'm Caitlin Mangum.
Reuters reports that business executives are worried that President Donald Trump's focus on North Korea's nuclear and missile programs could undercut U.S. commercial interests in China. After meeting with China's president, Trump tweeted that Beijing would get a better trade deal with Washington if it helped resolve the U.S. problem with Pyongyang. The White House said that U.S. and Chinese officials are still in the early stages of coming up with a 100-day plan to reduce the U.S. trade deficit with China, which reached $347 billion last year.
The U.S. is sending dozens of troops to Somalia to train and equip Somali forces fighting Islamic extremism in the country. Voice of America, which first reported the troop deployment on April 14th, says the mission will last through the end of September. A spokesman for U.S. Africa Command told CNN the mission will, quote, improve the logistical capacity of the Somali National Army, and the focus will be on teaching basic logistics operations. The last time U.S. combat troops were deployed in Somalia was in 1993 during a raid to recapture allies of Somali warlord Mohammed Farah Aidid. 2 U.S. military helicopters were shot down in Mogadishu in the process, killing 18 U.S. troops and 2 UN soldiers. The incident was dramatized in the movie Black Hawk Down. Former U.S. President Bill Clinton withdrew troops from Somalia in 1994. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Neela Uni.
North Korea has once again promised military action in the case of provocation by the United States. North Korean Vice Foreign Minister Hong Sung-yeol said North Korea is ready to launch a preemptive strike on the U.S. if it engages in reckless military aggression. He made the comments to the Associated Press on Friday, April 14th. He also blamed President Trump for raising tensions, saying, quote, Trump is always making provocations with his aggressive words. Trump also sent an aircraft carrier group to the Korean Peninsula in response to the North's latest missile test. Rising tensions have countries in the region worried, urging the two to de-escalate. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi said Friday North Korea and the U.S. must stop provocation and threats before the situation gets out of hand. Meanwhile, Japan's National Security Council reportedly discussed evacuating its citizens in South Korea in the event of war. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Matt Paul.
Russia vetoed a United Nations resolution April 12th that would have required Syria to cooperate with chemical weapons investigations. The resolution condemning the April 4th attack was backed by France, the United Kingdom, and the United States. The Hills in Bolivia and Kazakhstan also voted no, while China and Ethiopia abstained from voting. According to CNN, the resolution would have required the Assad regime to cooperate with chemical weapons investigations, including making pilots available for interviews and providing flight logs for review. The chemical weapons attack in Khan Sheikhoun prompted the U.S. to launch Tomahawk missiles at the Syrian airstrip, believed to be the launch site for the chemical weapons attack. Russia said the resolution determined guilt before the results of an investigation were known. Russia has now vetoed 8 UN resolutions related to the Assad regime since the current conflict started in Syria in 2011. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Kimberly Caldwell.
The first of the U.S. Navy's new class of supercarriers is finally at sea. After years of delays and billions of dollars in cost overruns, the Gerald R. Ford finally got underway April 8th under her own power. Testers conducting sea trials plan to spend the next several days examining the Ford's key systems and technologies. Named after the former president and naval aviator, the Ford is 1,092 feet long and displaces more than 100,000 tons fully loaded. It's been touted for its increased efficiency and automation. The carrier, built by defense contractor Huntington Ingalls, is the first new carrier designed and constructed for the U.S. Navy in 40 years. However, it has faced a 2-year delay and sky-high costs, ringing in as the most expensive weapons system ever purchased. The Ford is currently on track for commissioning sometime later this month. For Newsbeat Social from Washington, D.C., I'm Caitlin Mangum.
On Saturday, April 15th, large protests are expected across the U.S. to demand that Donald Trump releases tax returns. The Tax Day marches, which are planned in dozens of cities, are expected to be the biggest political mass mobilization since the Women's March in January. According to a Pew survey from earlier this year, nearly 2/3 of Americans think Trump has an obligation to release his tax return. The president has stated for a couple of years now that he can't release the returns due to being audited by the IRS.